You're on mute, Uncle Paul. You need to take the thing off.
Can you hear me now? So all the time you couldn't hear me. sorry. Okay, greetings, people. Greetings to all the people them who's listening. You know, yeah, and yeah, well, I've come to give my little support to my niece and to the wise works what she's done. You know, I have a few little songs what I'm gonna sing out for you. This first song what I'm gonna sing for you is a song about having manners towards each other and respecting each other and not leaving your moral right or your principles. You know, these ways, you know, it'll help us get on with the rest of the humanity if we kind of pass on that message. So anyway, this one what is called Nah Left Me Right in a Jamaican. Whoa, say you know me come again, and me so like it, me come to show them, hey, this the one that have a solve problem. Whoa, me have to show the whole of them. You know me not let me right, me have to hold tight, me hold on to me truth and rights. Cause I no fuss, I no fight with the Rasta man a chant, I no gun, I no knife, with the Rasta man a chant, I no under your wife, the Rasta man a chant, just truth and right. Rasta man white and no black and no white, with the Rasta man a chant, and no dark and no light, with the Rasta man a chant, and no separation, the Rasta man a chant, just truth and right. Rasta man, mama say, good man a take you a long way. Don't let bad manners lead you astray. Make super manners be the savior of the day. Make good manners be your savior. With love, respect you one another. Cause bad manners, it will make you decay. So don't bother what they do or say. No matter follow no back company. Cause you know the money lead you astray. Just have respect to your mother and father and give love to your one another. And respect your brother, sister, and your elder. Cause I don't go, I don't fight with the Rasta man a chant. I don't go, I don't like with the Rasta man a chant. I don't under your wife. The Rasta man a chant, just truth and right. Rasta man a want, I don't black, I don't white. With the Rasta man a chant, I don't dark, I don't like. With the Rasta man a chant, and a separation. The Rasta man a chant, just truth and right. Rasta man a want, just truth and right. Rasta man a want, truth and right. Rasta man chant, truth and right. Rasta man want, truth and right. Rasta man, family say, liquid with the music, but slackness come and want a music. So come retrocede, let me move up quick. Come let me move it slick. Alright, I know you know say that me heavy like a brick. You know say that we have to sinking like Titanic. You know say that I'm moving well by your neck. You know say that I'm moving like a supersonic. I know fuss, I know fight with the Rasta man a chant. I know gun, I know knife with the Rasta man a chant. I know under your wife, the Rasta man a chant. Just truth and right. Rasta man a want, I know black, I know white with the Rasta man a chant. I know dark, I know light with the Rasta man a chant. I know separation, the Rasta man a chant. Just truth and right. Rasta man a want, just truth and right. Rasta man a want, yes, truth and right. Rasta man chant, yes, truth and right. Rasta man want, yes, truth and right. Rasta man chant, yes, truth and right. If I'm Marley want, yes, truth and right. I will it then it's on time, yes, truth and right. I will it come back and ring, yes, truth and right. Truth and right. I say, whoa, boy. I said, you know me come again. And me so like it. Me come to show them, hey, this the one that have a cause problem. Whoa, boy. Me have to show the whole of them. You know me not left me right. Me happy all time. Me hold on to me truth and right. And me say, whoa. I said, you know me come again. And me so like it. Me come to show them. This the one that have a cause problem. Wow. Yeah. That was the first one, you know. As I said, one about respecting each other, you know, loving each other, you know, doing what we can for each other, you know. Without bad manners, yeah. So anyway, The second song, what I'm gonna give to you now, is called Urban City. And it's about the inequality in the cities. And, you know, when it comes to the money situation, I think that to have money, money should be shared out fairly. If it's not money, then they should give us back the land and let us do our own thing, you know, and have our own sovereignty and look after ourselves. We're not minors. So anyway, this one they call Urban City, and to the cities.
I say I live in the city, I don't say
Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Rich man, I live in a society. Poor man, I live poor in a city. Rich through power control economy. So what the poor man is straight to feed the family. Make it a little look way over the city. The people, them are the two, them are the hungry. Chairman is straight to the two man. To the kind of richest country, them are the most public speaker. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Money make you happy and the money make you sad. Money make you good, you know the money make you bad. Money make them run out of cheap to go rap to. Money enough for them and lose house and job. That's why you know that me them find the job. Me show the whole world so you know the money drop. That's why you know that me have to get a job so I can get the things that I never had. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Money. The inner the ghetto, I'm a pocket take rock, kick and walk me and go kick and walk. The inner the ghetto, I'm a can get the walk. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Money for the gas and the electricity. Money for the clothes to put up on your body. Money for the food when you feel hungry. No. Money for the water liberty. Money from paper from tree. That provide water while the tree come free. Money should be there for everybody. Make sure it out to the world society. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. Money, it's not funny, especially when you don't have any money. It's not funny, Dan. You're living at the urban city. So me have to get a place up in the country where everything is green and free. Women on the fruit, it a grow plenty. I mean, I have to break to feed the family. Me have to find a brand new way to order. Me have to find a brand new way to barter. So we can look after our son and daughter. Where we can live like the ancestors. 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 Yeah. So yeah, that one was called Urban City, you know, and about, you know, we'll be better off in the country, living in our sovereignty. But you see, the next one what I have, you know, last but not least right now, is a thing called fear. You know, false evidence appearing real. In which is a bit of a deal right now, you know, so people are following the false evidence. And I'm just kind of trying to encourage people who haven't yet, you know, don't let fear divide people and divide you and make you do things in which, you know, say isn't good for you, you know. And, you know, this one is all about the creation of it's provided everything for us to be healthy and good and nice. So all we have to do is trust in it, you know. So this one, what is called fear, false evidence appearing. All right. Oh yeah. Wow. F-E-A-R, false evidence bearing real. 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 The one with the still in a tear. Then the one we figure out there. It's like the one who all our weed disappear. Then the one we figure different here. But the same here which is in here. Is that the same here which is up there? So tell me how the royal chat we are gonna work out this nightmare. Because them say we can go out the world. That's why me know this thing is no clearer. Because the way Babylon them love tell lies, so me know this thing nothing serious. Because them want with the move frightened, and I move with chest tighten. But then the one with the get the good fresh air and the sunlight we breath lighten. So me sing say F-E-A-R, false evidence bearing real. 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 The one with the wash to me and I wanna be a damn nasty man. Them a go on like say them care about us, but me know it is a bogus plan. Them a go on like they care about us, and I tell we about the virus. But let me tell you, in a Dr. Urban fruit and a vegetable, when me put in the trust, so me sing say F-E-A-R, false evidence bearing real. 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 A bearing real. A bearing real. Yeah. Don't let her fool ya. Now, so when them a come up on the scene, tell them to go left off of the scene. Tell them say your heart is pure and clean. In a mother earth you rock and come in. And you know she creates everything. We make everybody healthy and thing. You must see things that are uneducated creation in which we the rock and come in. So me sing say F-E-A-R, false evidence bearing real. F-E-A-R, false evidence bearing real. Yeah. All right, that was me. Yeah, and I hope you enjoyed that one, you know. And yeah, so I'll let you get on with the show now. And thank you for having me, you know. And I'd like you to check me out on my website. If you can, you know, shyvicelion.com, and you'll find some of my tunes on there. And I'm on the website and I'm on the YouTube. So if you want to check me out a little deeper, then you can see what else I'm doing with. So thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Paul. Vanessa, I'm sure you can put the links in the comments, the chat box, so everyone can find you. And we will be having a little more of your music later on, aren't we, in the break?
Okay, yes.
Thank you, thank you.
No problem.
So this is our enslavement and entrapment, our long-awaited workshop. And this is part of our Vibrate Higher series, Discovering You. And we are really trying to take you from really like a journey to empower and educate you. But before we get started, I just want to break down how the event will go today. So after I've finished, Tahara is here from the Freedom Festival talking to us from fear to freedom. And then we will have a break and we'll be listening to Paul at 8:15 for 15 minutes. And then Katrina will be here talking to us about slavery and the system. And then it will be followed by our very own Vanessa, who will be talking about the Crown, the corporation, and global control. So if you've got any questions, at the end, we will have a time for questions. And so write them down, make sure that, you have questions ready, and make sure everyone's muted and stuff as well. So there's no distractions. And then we will end with a meditation, really just to let go of any thoughts, ground ourselves into some intentions and going forward. And that will be with Susie. So I just wanted to just kind of introduce the reasons why we're doing this. It's very much, for me, this whole process is about really being conscious of the social constructs that we exist in, and that we aim to help you transition between the world that exists, that you exist in now, into a new world that we're trying to create. And for me personally, this is going to be in a real life learning experience. So a lot of the concepts I've heard before, but I've never really heard it in its full glory, right? So, so if you're watching me and my face, like, what? These are real reactions, okay? So we really trying to put together a step-by-step process, right? So that you can learn and transition. We can do it together, right? Because it's not a simple process, and we're fully aware of that the information that is going to be presented today might be overwhelming. And so we aim to really try and hold space emotionally to be able for you to transition, and for us to transition into a powerful being that you are and the creators that you are. The more of us that are in this space and they're consciously leading that space, then we can, as a collective, change things. So we really want to offer that step-by-step process. For me, the 2020 was a beginning of everything that just kind of maybe felt completely off. And I know from the others within the group, they've been either have known the information for a while, but from my point of view, this information hasn't kind of flown to me. So this is why it's going to be a learning process for me. And so this is really taking things where it kind of obvious, as in things aren't right, to actually understanding why everything feels off, right? And so, again, this was obvious to me when my choices were taken away. I wasn't able to choose anything. And really, in order for us to create something new, we have to be conscious of what already exists. So this, again, is such a big learning experience. And me personally, I want to change things and how we live and do things. And I want people to question things more and resist things so that they can create something different. I believe we are all creators and we are here to create. So we're not going to follow a made up system that suits a small portion of society, not all. So, and, sometimes I hear, well, people have tried. Well, just because people have tried to change doesn't mean things can't change. And I really believe that the way that the world has been set up to fail and cause destruction. And if you're in this sort of space, you know that intention is everything. And when your intention is pure, then the outcome is going to be good, right? And so this is how the universe works. This is how law of attraction works. So whatever you you want to call it, whatever you believe in, and I know that I live and breathe in this, and for me, all of this kind of makes sense to me. So without, I guess, further ado, without talking anymore, I'm really excited to introduce our first guest, Tahara, from fear to freedom.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh, I absolutely loved what you said. So it's like you're speaking my words. They're things and words that I say all the time. So I've just got 15 minutes and I'm going to be speaking about freedom, from fear to freedom. So basically, the reason why I chose this topic is because at the moment we know that the cabal are using fear as their number one choice of weapon to control us. And indeed, they've been doing that for millennia. So the whole tactic of divide and conquer is all about making us fear the other. So the divide has always been, fearing foreigners, black versus white, Muslim versus Christian, even men versus women. So the whole men versus women was a big thing started by Rockefeller, who funded the feminist movement, not to empower women, but to actually divide us from our partners, from our families, so that they can take control of the children and indoctrinate them. So if people don't know about this, Google Rockefeller being interviewed, or sorry, Alan Rousseau being interviewed about Rockefeller. So he had a conversation with Rockefeller, and Rockefeller actually told him this. Obviously there's lots of Rockefellers, but he was part of the clan. So the whole thing about fear being used at the moment, we, who are awake, we think, oh, those people who are being indoctrinated by the media, poor them, that they're consuming it as fear porn. And we seem to think that only they are the ones who are being affected by fear. When the truth is that those of us who are awake, all of us here, and in the wider freedom movement, from my experience, I've never experienced fear so much as I have from our own community. And why is that? It's because we've done all the research, we've been down those rabbit holes, down those tunnels, and we've discovered the most awful things that the cabal do to us, have done to us for millennia, and especially what they have planned for us. So we know more than those of our contemporaries who aren't awake. We know more than them, the awful things. Maybe some of you know some of these things and maybe you don't, but what it says in the Georgia Guidestones, how they want to depopulate the world to only 500 million. That means killing off, we're about 7 million or whatever it is, 8 million at the moment, killing off about 95% of us. Sorry, excuse me. There's the things that they do to children, especially, and that's the reason why I'm just literally plunged into doing whatever I can to bring an end to this evil, is when I discovered what they do to children. So I went into quite serious depression when I was in those tunnels, because I didn't want to believe, and I just kept looking and looking in order to debunk all of that. Unfortunately, all I got confronted with was even more and more evidence. So the things that we know that they do, the things that we know that they have planned for us, is what also grips us into fear. And what I am brilliant at is empowering people to come out of that fear, because I'm a life coach. I trained as a life coach in 2014, and at the time I did well, and then suddenly this other amazing business opportunity came, and I just put all my eggs in one basket with this business opportunity, and unfortunately after a couple of years it failed, and then I started from scratch. And I just used to think, why did I spend so much time and money and effort? And really I turned myself inside out to go through the whole process of becoming a life coach. And then when this happened in March 2020, it wasn't a case of, oh no. For me it was at last, because I know that once this last final phase was going to be rolled out, that's when it's the end of them and the start for us. It's the end of their world and the beginning of us creating a newly. So for me, it was incredibly exciting. And for me, this year since March 2020, except for the first month, which was, you know, me basically trying to wake my friends and family, being rejected, being on my own, and really, you know, feeling very isolated. But then come literally a month later, I was one of the very few handful of people who met outside New Scotland Yard to protest. And literally since that Saturday, we have been protesting every single, not just Saturday, but obviously many other days. So since then, since literally it was the 2nd of May, our first protest, since then, for me, this has been the most exhilarating year of my life. It's been the year that I haven't, it's been the year that I've slept the least, worked the hardest. It's been the year that I have probably researched, shared about maybe on average, I don't know, something ridiculous like maybe even 20 hours a day working on my, what I deem my mission. And it's also been the year that I've never felt so fulfilled, so happy, and most of all, so free and so powerful, so bold and so fully self-expressed. And it's because I'm really doing what I know I was born to do. And this is what I want for every single one of my community, which is all of you people, the truth lovers and the freedom fighters. I'm no longer really interested in waking people up. I've done that for about a decade. All I want to do is empower my community of truth lovers and freedom fighters. So what I'm going to do is just give you an insight of my journey, quick insight into my journey to get here, and really to invite everyone here, anyone else who'll be watching, to come and join me. Because what we need right now are not people who are just going around protesting and then going home. We need powerful leaders, because very soon, I know we're going to bring this cabal down. And when I say very soon, I don't mean years, I don't even mean months, I mean weeks. We will be bringing this cabal down. And when that happens, there will be a vacuum, because all those leaders, they will be removed. We will be removing them. And there will be huge numbers that will have to be removed who are part of this corrupt system. And we have to replace those leaders. And where are they going to come from? They can only come from within our movement. But are we ready? No, we're not. The people who come at the moment, so I run workshops on www.thefreedomfestival.uk, and these workshops are designed just for our community to empower them. And the first one is called Freedom from Fear. So it's designed so that first of all I empower the individual, and then the advanced courses taking the individual to have the self-belief that they can be leaders, and empowering them to do that. Because if we do not do this, if someone does not do this, we will have a power vacuum. And in that power vacuum, there will be chaos. And we know that their motto is order out of chaos. So we absolutely need to empower the individuals, first of all, as individuals, and then to empower and develop them in their leadership skills really, really fast. So the way that the whole journey has started for me has been way back. I mean, even 9/11, I was already sort of awake, but at that time, you may have heard of this term called cognitive dissonance. I got cognitive dissonance at that time because I actually thought that if they can do this huge, what's it called? those what they call those flags. Oh no, my mind's gone blank. Anyway, the hoax, pull this hoax. If they can do this on such a huge scale, then there's nothing I can do, and I felt completely powerless. And I literally and I remember watching the news, and they said about 2 days later they found a paper passport, and it just horrified me that everyone still continued to believe that this was not a hoax, that concrete and metal can become powder and molten liquid, but a paper passport can survive. But I put that, you know, in a box and I put it away, and I just thought there's nothing I can ever do. And then in 2004, I had a near-death experience, and I came back, and I didn't know why I came back, because I really didn't want to come back. I was very depressed at the time, and the experience that I had was so beautiful, and it was so unlike anything that we can ever experience on this earth. You know, I can't even call it unconditional love, because it just doesn't describe what that was. And I was very upset that I had come back. And all I could hear was that it wasn't my time, and that I had a purpose. And then when all of this happened, I knew that this was my purpose, that this is the time. So from 2020, so from May 2020, I founded the Freedom Festival as a result, as a direct result of me finding that when I was going to protests, I couldn't be with the angry energy. So I would go to the protests and I would end up talking to police officers, maybe 20, 25, 30 police officers. And I would just be very gentle with them, ask them questions about what they thought was happening, and then give them very simple ideas of questioning what the mainstream narrative was. And I had the most amazing conversations with them, but then they started to become really violent. And in the beginning, it was very easy for me to get away from them, because I knew common law, and I knew what to say, and I knew what not to say, in order not to be fined and arrested. But then when they became really violent, so there were all these images I would see the next day on Sunday with, you know, people with blood pouring down their head, I was becoming very, very concerned. And I was also watching that people were saying stuff that was sort of common law words, but they were getting it really wrong, and they were ending up getting fined and arrested. And then there was this woman in Australia, she was pregnant. She shared a post on Facebook, and her home was invaded by about 7 officers, and they arrested her. And again, she was using common law language, but she was making what we call joinder, which is contract, all the time, saying the wrong things. And that's when I thought, okay, I need to intervene now. People don't know what to say, they don't know what not to say, and I can help them, I can support them. So I created a little video, and I sort of had to teach people on what to say, what not to say. And I think it was just a couple of days before the next protest, and Kate Shamarani shared it, and it got seen by thousands very quickly. And on the actual day, I had at least a dozen people come to me, and they recognized me, and they said, it's because of you I've come. And every single one of them brought out the actual, so I had a script of what to expect from the police and what to say. And they'd either done a copy of the script, a printout of the script, or they'd made some notes. And every single one of them took it out and showed me that they'd been using it, practicing it, and they had it in case they needed it. And I thought, okay, you know, this is really needed. So then that's how I then started doing them on Zoom, started running them on Zoom, and it became so popular. I was having about 80 people at a time coming on Zoom, and I couldn't cope with that amount of people. And so then I did a call to action on who would like to also be trained as a life coach. And then I started training people to do the life coaching side. So that's what's really, really different about what we do at Freedom Festival. There's lots of people out there, lots of groups, lots of videos, lots of books who teach people about common law. And so people have the information, but what they don't have is the empowerment side, to really know and to own what you're saying. So they might know the words, and I see YouTube videos all the time with the protesters, and they get it wrong, and they know some, and they don't know how to say it, and other times they don't know what not to say, because that's just as important. But the most important thing is not even what you say and what not to say, but it's how you say it, how you come across. And that's where the whole thing about fear comes in, because when you're confronted by authority, by police, it is fearful. And you might know these people might be excellent with that information, but when they're under pressure, everything goes wrong. Your mind goes blank, or you come out with anger. You come out with it with anger, and then that also loses you credibility and that power. So this is where we are totally different and totally unique. So nobody else is offering this service. And the main thing is, so we give all the information that you need, but the main difference is the 1 hour coaching session that people get, where it's all about connecting people with their divine inner power. And that is within every single one of us. We don't need to sign any article, or we don't need to sign for a card. This power, it's innate, and it's been programmed out of us. It's been beaten out of us. It's been, we've forgotten it. We had it when we were children. We're born free. We're born fully self-expressed, and things happen in life, and we then stop ourselves from making whatever it was that happened. Our parents said no and punished us. No, you mustn't do that. Or we made a mistake maybe, and we made ourselves look foolish. And all we then do is we inhibit ourselves. And what we need to do that's where we need to go. We need to go within. And it's that connection. You can call this connection to your creator, to your higher power. You can call this connection to the universe, to the field. I strongly suggest people also research quantum physics or quantum science. Amazing scientists and doctors like Dr. Greg Baden, he's my favorite. Dr. Bruce Lipton, Dr. Joe Dispenza. These people, they've taught me how to connect to that inner power, and it's all backed by science, and this whole thing about one consciousness, universal consciousness. It's not a concept, it's real, it's backed by science. So we're not only are we connected to our higher power, our creator, that higher source, but through that we're all connected to each other. And once we realize this is where we can become totally fearless, because we just need to realize that evil cabal, that satanic cabal, they have their God, and they're very open about it. Lucifer, Satan, they worship their God, they sacrifice to their God, and they derive their power from their God. They do. So this battle isn't just on this physical realm, it is on the spiritual realm as well. So yes, we have to be fearless, or we have to be courageous and brave on this realm. We have to go out and confront these authorities, and when they are taking away our freedoms, we have to not comply. We have to know our laws and our rights, and we have to stand up to them. And we also have to be powerful and fearless on the spiritual realm. We have to derive our power from the spiritual realm. And the only way that we can really do that is in the same way that they do it, but they do it by connecting to their God, Satan, their higher power. And we need to do that by connecting to our higher power, and realizing that through that connection, we're also connected to each other. Realize that, we really are one. in a very real way. We really are at the level of consciousness. We are all connected, and this is where, you know, it gets a little bit maybe uncomfortable for some, and it has been very uncomfortable for me to realize that we're also connected to them, and that even they are part of this consciousness, and we're very near, very, very near to bringing them down, and then we will have to deal with them, and, you know, how to deal with them. And that's, you know, that's something that we need to also prepare for. So it's really a wonderful, wonderful place to be in right now. It's the most wonderful, exciting time in the history of humanity to be in right now. And I just want to know, for you guys, I know, and I would like you to know, that we are all incredibly special to be here at this time. It's an honor, and we should not squander this opportunity for so enjoy the ride, you know, come and join me as well and enjoy this ride. It's been the most exhilarating ride for me. People, you know, other people have maybe found it maybe sometimes even offensive when I say this, but I can only be really authentic and say that it, you know, it has been literally the best time of my life. It's been the most, for me, I've never worked so hard, and I've never slept so little, and I've aged and I've put on weight because I have neglected myself. And it's also been the most uplifting and spiritually the most rewarding time of my life too. Thank you very much all for being here.
Thank
and
you
if there's any
much.
questions, if I have still a few minutes, I would love to answer any questions.
We have questions at the end, Tara. Thank you. Paul, we will be looking forward to 15 minutes of grooves with you now. Are you ready? Two minutes. You're on mute.
There I go. There I go.
Yay, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back again. Yeah, I've got, I did prepare one more, but I'll do two more for you. Yeah, so it might not be the full 15 minutes, but yeah, I'll try and fill out the time for you, yeah? So,
did I finish before my time?
Pardon?
Did I finish before my time?
I don't know. I don't think that.
No, you're all right, Tara, that's fine, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so yeah, I'll do a couple of songs for you. So this one is what I'm gonna sing for you. It's a revamped song, you know. It was called Born Free. It's a song in which I look from a child, and with the state of things in which going on now, you know, it's more relevant that people are to realize that they were born free. You know, everything in this creation is come free for us, and it's like we're part of the free package, but somehow we've been caught up in the sales of things, and it's kind of put us in a bad state. Anyway, yeah, this one, what I've kind of remixed, and I called what I said, Born Free.
Born free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free, yeah, I'm free, I'm free, yeah. I'm free, I'm free, hey, I'm free, I'm free, hey. Born free as the wind blows, as free as the grass grows, born free to follow your heart. Live free where beauty surrounds you. The world still astounds you each time you look at the stars. Stay free where no walls divide you. You're as free as the roaring tide, so there's no need to hide. Born free, life is worth living, but only worth living 'cause you are born free. Born free, whoa, born free, hey, born free, whoa, born free, hey, free like the bees were flying out the sky, free like the fishes were swimming out the sea, born free, you know we're born free. Born free, where no walls divide you. You're as free as the roaring tide, so there is no need to hide. Yeah, so yeah, that was a little revamp of my style of Born Free. And yeah, so the next one I'd like to give to you is a song called Vision. I've made this song quite a while ago. It's a vision for people to live it as one, you know? So this one went in called Vision.
But this one I was the vision.
Vision, oh, vision, yeah, vision, oh, vision, yeah, vision, vision, way, vision, love, vision, yeah. I had a little vision, black, white, and Asian. We had a little kingdom where we all lived it as one. Oh, there was no fuss and fighting over ownership of land. No, we were love and united in every race and every nation. Don't need a day. Vision, oh boy, vision, hear me no man. Vision, yaga yo, vision, don't need the station. Vision, Lord of mercy, vision, hear me no man. Vision, you are, hey, and in this vision, no more discrimination, no, and no more destruction to the means that they guns and bombs. No, we were loving creation in which was given to the man, yeah, to look after the heavens, the air and the sea and land on in a day. Vision, yeah, go, vision, hear me no man. Vision, vision is the number one. Vision, yeah, you. Vision, hear me no man. Vision, vision, oh, for us all to live it as one. Yeah, yeah. Me say all nations to do it as one. Yeah, yeah. I don't care, it's where you come from. I say, you know we can do it. Yeah, yeah. Vision, oh boy, vision, give me no man. Vision, yaga yo, Dijan, don't in your station, Dijan, boy, Dijan, Dijan, yaga yo. So come on, no human, let's sit down and have a cup of tea, and let us all reason. This how we can set this world free. Oh, from all this destruction and mental slavery. Yeah. Why don't we all rise and stand and eradicate all poverty? And this vision, oh, vision, yeah, yeah. Don't in a vision, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, that was a little one, you know, it's just a freestyle kind of style, you know, so vision and I say born free. So yeah, I'd like to get back to you now. So I hope you can deal with that. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Paul. And I just love the words that you're using is just exactly what we need right now.
Good,
So
good.
thank you.
Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. Glad to.
So I'm excited to introduce you to Katrina. She has worked in contract and project management for the last 28 years. But now she is a contributor in the last 5 years as a business owner after meeting Vanessa online in a common law group. They've now set up the Empowering Small Business Telegram. And today she's talking about slavery and the system. So yes, I am looking forward to this one.
All right.
Over to you.
Thank you very much. Is it okay if I screen share? I tend to remember what. Can you hear me okay? Yeah.
I can hear you, Trina. I'm just
thank
making
you.
the host, my darling, but I'm not great on these things. I'm doing it now.
Everything went quiet, and I thought, oh. Here we go. Lovely. Right. I don't think you should have up entrapment. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to start us off with how we're entrapped. Now, I work in statute. My job, I'm a project manager, but I'm also a principal designer, which means I manage health and safety for hospital construction projects. And my job is to make sure that the CDM regulations are adhered to. So I've got quite a good background in statute. And then when I started learning about common law, and you can then start to see how regulations, codes, acts, and everything's put into place. And then it all started to come together. So this is when I started to do the new biz Zooms. And I think this was back in November last year. So we've been doing it a good sort of 9 months now, where we've been doing these presentations every Monday. And now this is a portion of a 2-hour and 10-minute presentation, because every time I learned something, I kept chucking stuff in. So it started off as 40 minutes and then morphed into this feature-length movie. It's a bit of a behemoth at the moment. And I keep saying to people, what should I take out? And they're like, no, don't take out anything. It's all really good. So hopefully this little portion will give you a snippet of what we present on a Monday. And this is probably the juiciest part of it, if I'm honest. So we'll talk about entrapment. My little clicker isn't working. First, now I did a video back in October last year, and it kind of spread along like wildfire. It was called You're Not a Person. And it even ended up, not that I'm bitter or anything, but Charlie Ward put it on his website, which was great because the message is getting out there. It was just a bit annoying that he took the links to our groups off the end, but you know, it's out there. But the problem with it was wrong, because that back then I thought it was contract law, and since then I've learned a lot more about trust law. So I'm going to redo it now. So to comprehend how they entrap us in the system, we need to go back to how commerce works. So in contract law, living men and women can contract with other living men and women. Corporations can contract with other corporations. But corporations and living men and women can't contract with each other. And that's because you've got something that's tangible, that's a fact, and that's us as living beings. And then you've got a corporation, which is a made up construct. So it's a fictional entity. So in the hierarchy of authority, this is where we stand. So we have the creator right at the top, and then underneath that, you've got your living man and your living woman. So nothing is above us when it comes to the order of things. Below that, we've got the artificial construct of government, which is something that we created to help look after us, to serve us. And then even below that, you've got your corporations as well. So at the top, you've got your facts. They're undisputable, cannot be questioned, they're sacrosanct, and they are real. Oh. Sorry, I've got something come off on my headset. That was weird. That's the music playing. Then below that, you've got your artificial constructs, which are your fictions. So you've got your governments and you've got your corporations. Now, when it comes to law, the law of the land, which is common law, that deals with victims and your real entities. So if you've ever broken a law, there must be a real victim. It has to be something that actually exists in real life. Preventative doesn't cut it because you've not actually created a victim. You might create a victim, yes, but there's no actual real victim. So it has to be factual, real, for it to become a broken law, okay? When it comes into the fictional element, that's your Admiralty Maritime Law. Now, I call it Admiralty Maritime because back when we started commerce on the Mediterranean, the sea, that's where most of the ships would carry out the commerce. So your Admiralty law was your law on the ship, that was your admiral. And then the maritime law was the law between the ships. So it was all to do with trade. So that's your law of commerce. And they are legal policies and rules. So your government operates in commerce, we operate in law. The bottom line is living men and women cannot be ruled by something they have created. Full stop. No exceptions. Only the creator can rule above you and stand above you. So then you get to thinking, well, how are these artificial constructs, how are the government and the corporations telling living men and living women what to do? And they do it through trickery. Now, what we have is, say, for example, we've got Joanne of the family blogs, newborn baby. So she will be a woman. She's a baby at the time. Now, the parents, under sort of criminal coercion, threat of fine, or, by the family saying, well, you really should, register your child, go and register the baby. Now, when they're registered, it was at this point where I actually got it wrong. I thought it was creating a contract, but it doesn't. It creates a trust, but it's still a corporation. Now, you'd notice in your bank cards, etc., everything's your name, either your surname or your whole name is in capital letters. That's because capital means it's like a trademark. It's the name of a corporation. And then you've got your Miss, Mrs, whatever. Those suffixes, those prefixes, they're all to do with the legal entity also. That is a person. A person is a corporation. So it's called a legal fiction, or it's also called a straw man. You tend to find it called straw man more in American language. The government themselves call them legal entities. I've actually had a letter from the land registry when I tried to register my house into the trust or put the title for my house into a trust. They messaged me back with a letter saying it has to be in the name of a legal entity, meaning me. So they do actually admit to the fact that they create a legal entity with your name. So this is from Black's Law Dictionary, and it means, this is the 5th edition. So it says person in general usage, a human being, i.e. natural person, though by statute term may include a firm, labour organisations, partnerships, associations, corporations, legal representatives, trustees, so that's where the trust element comes into it, etc. So this is why I did the video saying you are not a person, because the person is the legal fiction and you are separate to that piece of paper that they created so that they could contract with you. Okay, so let's have a look at contracts. In order for a contract to be valid, the parties have to be competent to contract. If you think about a baby, that's not competent to contract. So that's another reason why it's not a contract. It has to be free and genuine consent. So both parties need to consent to the contract. Full disclosure. That's why they need to tell you exactly what is included in the contract. Valuable consideration. So it has to be of value to both parties. Certainty of terms. Those terms are fixed and they cannot be changed. There needs to be a meeting of minds. So the meeting of the minds, that's why corporations don't really have a mind. So it's difficult for them to contract with living souls. And then autograph signatures. So wet ink, of course, and privity of contract. Now, the privity of contract means that that contract cannot be sold on to a third party. It's only those two parties that are party to that contract. So if you get a debt collector coming on saying, oh, I've bought this debt, there's no contract because that contract cannot be sold on. Look into that a bit deeper because there's deed of assignments and things like that. But again, there still has to be consent. But then let's look at trust law. So we've got all of those elements that need to be satisfied in order for a contract to be put in place. But if you look at trust law, in a trust, the all caps name is the property that is in the trust. So a trust contains property, all right? The parties of the trust, you have to have three objects. You have to have the settlor, the beneficiary, and the trustee, okay? If you don't have all three parties, then the trust isn't valid, although a court can assign a trustee, okay? But the parties do not need to know that they are part of a trust. So this is where I tell people that they need to look up trust law, because if you go into a court, the judge is creating an implied trust. So he's constructing an implied trust. And that's why you probably see videos of people saying, I'm the beneficiary, because he's trying to put you into the role of the trustee, and it's the trustee that pays in, whereas the beneficiary obviously benefits. And they try to do this switch and they don't tell you about it. So it's kind of a way of contracting in a sneaky way, okay? So that is how they entrap us. All right, the next element of the presentation is about slavery. But it's not just about, you know, the slavery that we knew about, or that they did tell us about, the bit in history that we were allowed to know about. Now, there's a documentary and a book by Douglas A. Blackman called Slavery by Another Name. And this talks about, and it's, you know, the documentaries are available on YouTube. They're open out there. Obviously, they're not taught it. They don't tell us to us in school. They don't tell us a lot in school, to be honest. And you find out as you start to wake up. But this particular type of slavery is when they abolished the stealing or the kidnapping of Africans and taking over to Great Britain or to Africa or wherever they were going to be slaves at. When they abolished that particular act, they moved it. And what they were doing was they were, because the prison labor is such a cheap labor, and we've all seen about, you know, the African Americans doing the railroads and stuff like that. That still goes on now because prison labor is very cheap, and it doesn't happen just in America. It also happens over here in Great Britain as well. So there's some great documentaries on that. And when these prisoners were being released, because it was such cheap labor and because it was such a great industry, they decided they were going to make more prisoners. So they were flooding Black and poor communities with drugs, with guns. They were inciting criminal behavior to create these prisoners so that they could have their cheap labor. So it's absolutely appalling what they were doing. And then we've also got the abhorrent human trafficking out there as well, with your sex trades and your red markets as well. So yes, we know that there's a lot of slavery out there still. But the other slavery I want to talk about now, again, goes back to commerce. You can see how quite a lot of evils still stem from commerce. So originally, they used to use precious metals for trading, and that was because you had your guy with the chicken, and you had the guy with the turnip. And you know, if each wanted each other's product, then great, happy days. But if the guy with the turnip didn't want a chicken, they would need to find an alternative way of trading. So that's when they started to use these precious metals, because it was easy to trade with lots of others. And then the goldsmiths started pressing these precious metals into coins. And that was then because the value of each coin was agreed. And then they were having all of these coins build up. So the goldsmiths decided that they needed to build these vaults. And the vaults would keep the coins safe until they were sold on. And then people were starting to build up a stash of coins as well. And so they said to the vaults, to the goldsmiths, oh, can we keep our coins in your vault? And that's how banks were born. So the people would go and take their coins to the goldsmith's vaults. The goldsmith would give them a receipt. And then those receipts ended up becoming promissory notes. And you would find that people would go to the markets, and instead of, like, they'd see something that was like 100 coins, and they would think, oh, I can't be asked to go to the bank to get my coins. Can you just take this receipt that I've got that says I've got 100 coins, and then you can go to the bank and get it. So that's how the promissory notes started getting traded around, because they couldn't be bothered to go and get the coins. So they just started trading in these notes because they were easier to carry and easier to trade. However, the goldsmith, dollar signs in his eyes, thought, okay, I've got all this gold sat here, and they're just moving these promissory notes around. What's to stop me making more promissory notes, as long as they don't all come and get the gold at the same time, which is called a run on the bank? So they started to do that. They started to print more promissory notes than what they had gold for. Now that's called fractional reserve banking, and it's legal, it's allowed. Most banks get to fractionally reserve 9 to 1. So whatever they've got in reserve, they can send out 9 times more in promissory notes. Now, of course, it's mostly done digital these days, but they create this money out of thin air. Now, we've spoken about how your legal fiction, when you are registered, so registered with the Crown, your legal fiction is turned into a trust. Now, at the same time as creating that birth certificate, they set up a bonded, in your name. These are called sweat equity bonds. Now, to understand what a sweat equity bond is, you need to look at Earth's resources. So if you look at, we have the oil, we have the gas, we have the precious metals coming from the Earth, abundance, this wonderful stuff that comes from the Earth, but also there comes energy from us, because we do stuff. We come from the Earth and we can do stuff. Therefore, we're a resource. Our energy is a resource that comes from the Earth. That is our sweat equity. So when they create these bonds, they are forward buying the energy they think they're going to get out of us from when we're born. Now, those sweat equity bonds, being the promise of our energy, are traded on the stock market, and they're worth millions, if not billions. So we're traded like cattle. So that's one element of it. So if you think, okay, well, if we're energy, that means they're human farming us. Let's look at the elements of human farming through the ages. So if we go back as far as records began, we look at ancient Egypt, and everybody knows about the slaves in ancient Egypt. It was a direct and brutal human consumption. It was very underproductive, and it took a hell of a lot of resources to control it. The poor slaves, they were very demotivated, as you can imagine. So, they wouldn't put a lot of energy into it. And because it was a horrible life, they didn't reproduce. So the number of slaves diminished over time. So it wasn't a very effective way of keeping humans. Phase 2 was the Roman model. They gave them some capacity for freedom, happier slaves and more productive. So this raised productivity, but eventually it collapsed with the fall of the Roman Empire. Then we look at phase 3, which is the feudal model. And this is where they started to say, okay, look, here's a bit of land. You guys go and farm that land, and you give us 20% of what you make. That's where taxation first came into it. But then it turned out that there was a continual subdivision of productive land. And then that broke down with the enclosure movement. You may have heard about the 1850s when all the lords decided they want the peasants off their land and they shipped them into London. So that all broke down then. But however, that opened up the phase 4, which was the democratic model of human farming. So we had all of these displaced peasants, no way of growing their food, nowhere to live, no way of earning a crust, gave the ruling class a huge stock of cheap human capital. But they also realized that they could make more money by letting their livestock choose their own occupations. So, you know, they could choose where they wanted to live, how many kids they wanted to have, or who they could marry, what schools their kids went to, etc. So we had all of this freedom that we were allowed as long as we complied with the mafia model of taxation and we gave them what they demanded. So how do they make us realize the promise of our energy? So we've got the control element, and obviously with the last year, it's been mad, the amount of control they've been putting in with the lockdowns, etc. But the most of the control comes in through schools, through indoctrination, dumbing down, conditioning to authority. So if you think about the indoctrination, the fact that they only teach us what they want us to know, there's lots of hidden history that we're never taught. There's lots of, you know, we're not taught about how banks work, how politics work, etc. They don't want us to know anything like that. They dumb us down. If you look at an exam paper from 100 years ago, you'd need Google or DuckDuckGo to help you answer it, because these days it's much easier than it was back then. And then there's also the conditioning to authority as well. If you think about how teachers treat you as parents, you know, treating you like a child, what they're actually trained to do in the 5 years of university in learning how to become a teacher is to condition others to their authority. Now, if you've had a teacher who's been sort of really sort of respectful and nice, you always remember that teacher, but they're very few and far between, because most are told to treat children to fear and respect. Okay, and of course that's all part of the conditioning. And then you've got the element where they pay slaves to police slaves. So you've got the us and them, you know, if you don't put them in prison, you're going to lose your job and it'll be your house, sort of thing. And then on top of that, we've got the media. So we've got the rhetoric that comes from there, which is all very controlled. Tavistock Institute, it's all designed to psychologically distract us as well. We've got the shaming. So everyone around us is taught to point and shame so that you do the right thing. And that's all part of the division and the way that the slavers control. And then, of course, you've got your industries as well, distraction industries. You've got your film, your fashion, your trends, and that creates debt, because they create suffering, because you feel like you need to have a little bit of retail therapy, or you can't wear last season's clothes, etc. So it's all part of control. It's all a control mechanism. So I've got in the background there the weapons of mass destruction. So we've got the weapons of mass distraction. So we've got the division of through distraction. So things like issues like BLM, masks, immigration, propaganda, politics, everything is all just complete and utter BS. It's all just there for distraction. And then, of course, you've got your debt. So they create the demand, constant advertising. You know, you've got to have the nice car, etc. Then you've got your high interest rates, destroying businesses. So that makes the debt even worse. So that's our debt slavery. And then, of course, you've got your consequences. So we've already been conditioned to authority, and, you know, we're already fearful. And then you've also got the threats of fines, you've got prison, etc. That's because we don't know our rights. So banks are the energy pipeline. That is how they convert our energy into a usable currency for them. So we use our energy to put money in the bank, and then we fulfill demand with that money. So we buy stuff. Now, debt is energy in advance. So they say, okay, well, you know, you're going to be working for the next 5 years. So why don't you use that 5 years worth of energy now and buy that bigger car, or that, you know, that nicer house or something, like if you want 25 years of debt. So that's your energy in advance. However, this is where another fraud comes in, because what they do is they use a thing called credit creation. And this is where, because your signature actually has value and it's all linked in with your bonds. Sorry, the dog's chewing a ball behind me. It's putting me off. So because your signature actually has value, they when you sign a piece of paper, that securitizes the credit, and in your mind you think, right, they're going to take some money from a pot that they've got and they're going to pay the car dealership with it. They don't actually do that. You sign a piece of paper, they magic that money out of thin air and give it to the car dealership, and then they sell your loan onto another creditor, etc. So it's all securitized and stuff. So your signatures actually created that credit. So it's another banking fraud where they just magic this money out of thin air. So it's like, well, hang on a sec, I've just gifted you that money. So why are you charging interest? It's my energy. Okay, so now promissory notes. I was saying to you about promissory notes. They were used for precious metals, for coins. Now, they used to be gold backed, but this stopped in 1931. And the reason for that is because our energy is actually worth more than gold. It's more abundant than gold. If you go back to previous wars where the kings were fighting wars and they needed to borrow money because wars are expensive, you've got to feed your armies, etc., buy weapons and stuff. So the kings ran out of gold. And so then they said to the banks, well, I need to borrow some money to fund this war. And the banks were like, oh, what do you got? What are you going to securitize it with? And so the kings were like, well, I've got a bit of land here. And then eventually all of that land was gone and the UK corporation was created because the banks own the UK. And so then, you know, we've just had a bit of a reset in 1918 and we're coming up to the Second World War. We need some more money. So what are you going to securitize this lot of money with? And so they secured it with us. Our energy. They sold us into slavery to the banks. So we're actually owned by the banks as well. So we've got the banks, they're allowed to magic money out of thin air based on the promise of our energy. They've got the three frauds that the banks do. So they've got the fractional reserve that I've spoken about. They've got the credit creation that I've spoken about. And they've also got quantitative easing as well. That's more treasury than banks. But with the quantitative easing, what they do is they just literally print money out of thin air. If you and I did it, it'd be called counterfeiting. But with the quantitative easing, it's a legal way of doing it. But what it actually does to the economy is if you look at your house price and you bought it for, say, 200,000 and your house price goes up, it actually is the other way around. It's because your house is the fixed price. It's just taking more of this stuff to buy it because it's worth half as much as it was before. Yeah. So quantitative easing isn't a good thing. House prices going up isn't a good thing because it just means that the economy is weaker. So therefore, the quantity of our energy is worth more than gold, all of the gold available. However, 93% of all worldwide money are figures on a screen as debt. That is our debt slavery. That is how they control us. It's the promise of our energy. Now, I've got in this background here, got the International Monetary Fund up. So the current financial system is called fiat currency. It's the system of the pedo-vampiric parasites, and they take a huge cut of everything. I love saying pedo-vampiric parasites because I used to have elite in there, and I probably said it about 20 times. And I was like, what the hell am I calling them elite for? PVPs, right? They take a huge cut of everything. Now, when you're paying your tax and you think, oh, it's only 20%, it's not a lot. I don't mind paying that to keep the country going. It's not actually 20%. When you add up all of the taxes, and there's near on 2,000 different taxes when you look at, you know, you've not only got your income tax, you've got your fuel tax, you've got your tax on clothes, you've got your import duties, this, that, and the other. So many taxes. It actually amounts to 85%. So you're getting 15p for every pound that you're earning. 85% goes to the Central Monetary Fund, where it's shared out between the PVPs, the Vatican, and the Crown. Very little of that actually comes back to us. So if we were actually going to repair roads ourselves and put the money in, we would get 85% more value for our money than what we do by paying it through the International Monetary Fund. So there are other systems that exist. You can set up your own. There's the Brixton Pounds. They've got up their own trading system down in Brixton. You know, there's kindness credits, there's our tokens. Loads of people have got lots of things going on. You've got your Beep Extra going on. You've got Bitcoin. I know some people don't like that, but you know, look into it because they're slagging it off for a reason. But just find ways of trading without using fiat currency. Sorry, I don't know if I've gone over. I think I'm all right for time, aren't I? Right? Yeah? All right to carry on. Sorry. So if you find other ways, now there's on the Freedom Hub, and I was talking to Karen Dodd, and she was saying that there is a cider producer down in Cornwall or Devon who is now trading with a fishmonger in Grimsby, and they are just literally trading their goods like they did hundreds of years ago. And it's so much cheaper because you've not got all the taxes and fees and all of the other stuff on top. So this is what we need to do. We need to just cut them out completely. So how do we break ourselves? We cut them out. We take our energy back. We work for ourselves. We trade with each other like we did hundreds of years ago. And we would be so much better off in terms of time and spiritual value because we're not going to be giving 85% of it away. Now, this exit strategy is part of the whole presentation. So I'll whiz through it quickly because I really don't want to bore you silly. So the first point, and as Master Tara was saying, is you've got to find your backbone. You've got to hold your position because it has been taken away from us. We've been so conditioned into, oh, don't worry, the government will take care of everything for you. So, you know, when you realize you can't trust them, you think, oh my God, I don't know what to do. So growing your backbone, deconditioning yourself, shaking off their authority, because you know you own your authority, and if you give them any authority, you have granted that to them. So don't give it to them in the first place. Only you can hold your position. You need to learn how to do it yourself. And just remember that we are descendants of survivors of previous resets. You know, it's in our genes. Yeah, they're either warriors or people who knew how to hide bloody well. Either way, it's all good. And then you've got your living status as well. That's probably something I won't go into here. Protect your property. So build your shield wall. You can put it into a private trust is a good way of protecting it, because that way you do what the, I don't know if it was the Rothschilds or the Rockefellers who said, own nothing, control everything. They've got it all in trust because they don't actually own anything themselves. If you don't own it, they can't take it away from you. All right. Get your trespass notices up because when it's your property, it's your rules. You know, the police need a warrant to come into your property. Then you can work with conditional acceptances, liability notices, etc. As I said, trade outside of their system. Now, some really, really good things to learn to empower yourself is to learn common, contract, equity, and trust law. Learn the Bill of Rights because they're part of our Constitution and they are actually very powerful tools and they do help us a lot. And also learn legalese as well. Find out how you're getting tripped and trapped because just using the wrong words like understand is something that's going to trap you. Stop feeding the beast. Every time we give them money, we're making them stronger. You know, the best way to pull the legs out from under them is to make them broke. So fight the fines, avoid your taxes, cancel your TV license, rebut everything. And, you know, as a sovereign being, you can put commercial liens on anyone you want to, which is like a charge, like a mortgage is a lien on your property. Now I've got their books, ignore that, sorry, it's because this is part of the bigger presentation. So stop using fiat money, remove the shackles. The Rothschilds cartel, they are the banksters. Get rid of your debt slavery, so wipe your debts and your mortgages, they're all fraudulent anyway. Trade with each other, cut them out. Support your local businesses and stay away from mega corporations such as Amazon. And then get some precious metals in as well. We don't know what's going to happen to this economy. And if you've got a little bit of silver stashed away, at least it's a bit of resilience for you if it all does go to pot. And Get some Bitcoin. I think it's gonna work out. Vanessa will tell me off for saying that. So get healthy. Consider the previous resets. If you think about in the previous resets that they wiped out a huge chunk of good slaves, you know, young strong men. They're being smarter with this one. They're going after the more infirm or people that would be a drain on society. And stay away, unfortunately, from the NHS. You know, if you've had an accident, then they're absolutely fantastic. A&E are brilliant, but Rockefeller took over medical school back in the 1950s when he realized he could make pharmaceuticals from oil, and he's been poisoning us ever since. Exercise, eat well, grow your own food, use the pharmacy co-op, and make sure you filter your water. Because I did an interview with a chappie who knows about all of this, and he was saying that in the post-mortem rooms, I can't remember what they're called, mortuaries, where they drain the bodies to put formaldehyde in them, they're allowed to drain the blood into our water system. And it's all filtered, you know, and it doesn't take out things like estrogen, antibiotics, steroids and stuff like that. And that, I think that's why we're getting so many sort of hormonal issues now, is because our hormones are totally out of whack. So get a reverse osmosis unit, drain all of that shit out of your water. Sorry, apologies. Drain all of that rubbish out of your water, and make sure you drink well and keep yourself hydrated. Sleep well, come off the chemicals. Fluoride is rubbish. I don't know why they're putting it in toothpaste. It's actually rat poison. And you know, watch what you're putting on your skin as well. Detox your mind, simplify your life. So that's like the best way of getting yourself out of the system, you know. Be fit and healthy, look after your brain, stand up for yourself. I think that's me. Yes, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. That was great. I've written a few questions down, so I'll wait till the end.
Katrina, do you mind making me the host again, please? And thank you so much. It was amazing. Sorry, Denise, I'll bring the next slide up shortly.
No, yes, you're up now anyway, aren't you? So your presentation is on, what did you call it? The crown. The Crown Corporation and Global Control. So this is Vanessa. She is one of our coaches at Vibrate Higher, and also one of the contributors for Empowering Small Businesses Network. So she is also very informative, and if you want to just take it away.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, Denise, and thank you to our contributors, Master Tahara and Katrina, and also my amazing uncle for the fantastic upliftment with the music. I have learned so much this evening from all three of you. And I just wanted to end on really, you know, I love the way how Trina kept saying they, and I want to, in this section, kind of put some, let's think about they in another way. Who are these people? Yeah, and I've written down that word parasites, Trina, so I'm putting that into this presentation as well. But yeah, I'm going to talk to you about the Crown Corporation and Global Control. So what is the Crown? Well, first of all, we need to think about the establishment of the empire, otherwise known as the city. And this city comes in three different parts, and it's located in three different parts of the world. So we have the military arm, which is located in Washington, DC, which is a city-state. Then we have the religious arm, which is located in the Vatican City State. Now, the Vatican City State actually does have its own country code, so that's something for you to think about there. And finally, we have the economic arm, which is the London City State. Now, this empire, known as the city, they have their own flags and they have their own rules, and I'll go into that a little bit more shortly. What I am specifically looking at in today's, it's only an introduction, it's just a taster, and we will go into it more as we work through the Discovering You series, but I'm talking to you about the City of London. Now, we've known about the British Empire, and the British Empire started to blossom at the end of the 17th century. But the City of London was actually established several years before the British Empire. And this is a corporation, so Katrina's given us that comprehension of what is a corporation. And it actually has an 800-year history. And as I said, the City of London is known for the economic arm, so it's controlling finance. Now, when it comes to thinking about the crown, it's not, you know, you may have thought about the Queen and the Queen wearing a crown. Well, in this regard, who's wearing the crown? Well, the crown has never been the King or the Queen of England. It's actually a committee of 12 to 14 men. I haven't seen any evidence that there's any women involved, so it is men. And they're ruling the independent sovereign state known as the City of London. Now, the City of London, it is also known as the Banking Square Mile. Katrina's mentioned some of these family names already in her presentation. So we have, again, the Rothschild family, the Rockefeller family, the Warburg family, the Oppenheimer family. Now, there are others, and some of those names you're not familiar with because, you know, these parasites, they're in the background, okay? So how does this crown empire actually operate? Well, when we're looking at the governance, it's a private sovereign state. It is a nation unto itself. And again, Trina told us the UK corporation. So when you think of the word United Kingdom, that is a registered corporation. You can look it up at Companies House. And this city-state, known as the City of London, is not subjected to the laws that are coming out of the British Parliament and the House of Lords. They do their own thing. They have their own bankster, they have their own courts, their own judges, they have their own laws, they even have their own police force, whereby there's about 2,000, again, men, maybe women as well, but they have the separate uniform from what you may picture in your mind. The photograph there is a man called William Russell, and he is the present Lord Mayor of the City of London. He's actually the number 692. And this position of the Lord Mayor, you are elected as the monarch of the city. And the Rothschilds have traditionally had a role in selecting the next Lord Mayor. Now, when it comes to the Lord Mayor's function, the Lord Mayor is described as a global ambassador for the City of London. When you think about the British Parliament, whoever is holding the position of Prime Minister, they are not going to make any moves to do with the British Parliament without consulting with the Lord Mayor. Even the ruling monarch, if she or he wants to do anything, they have to go and make appointments with the Lord Mayor. So they're actually seen as a subordinate to the Lord Mayor, City of London. So, you know, look at that face. Remember that face. I've never seen a picture of this parasite before, okay? Always in the background, they have their pomp and their ceremonies, and there's a lot more going off than we are led to believe. So what is the Crown City of London actually controlling? Well, again, I loved how Katrina gave us that comprehension of how this fiat debt-based currency has had so much controlling our life. But, you know, I've got the notes here, elite aristocracy, global elites, but I'm just going to say parasites because I love that word that Katrina's issued us with here, okay? So what you'll find is there are a number of different, when I say number, it's actually quite a large number of different organizations. So we have Fleet Street newspapers, publishing monopolies like the BBC and Reuters. The HQ for the Freemasons is based in the City of London. The Bank of England, which is Rothschild control, is based in the City of London. We have Lloyd's of London. We have the London Stock Exchange, all of the British banks, 385 foreign banks, and over 70 US banks are based in the City of London. This is absolutely disgraceful. What have they been doing? How did they gain that control? So again, Katrina gave us that explanation. And when we look back in history, we can also see that the Crown in history held the title in the world to the Crown land in the colonies, such as Canada, Australia, New Zealand. And more history here. In 1604, there was a corporation that was actually set up called the Victoria Corporation. And this Victoria Corporation owned most of the land that we know to be the United States of America. And at that time, the Victoria Corporation actually had access rights to over 50% of gold, silver, raw materials. How did this happen? Oh, sorry. So just to think about where we are. The jurisdiction that they're using, as Katrina said, it is in this maritime law, admiralty law. There's also the jurisdiction of the personality through the commercial equity. So yes, if you have a bank account, if you have a loan, a mortgage, or a credit card, it's actually seen as a property of the Crown. They've done the enfranchisement. The enfranchisement is where you have seen your name put in the capitals on the cards that you may have in your wallet or your purse. The banknotes. We now know, so I'm talking about myself, you know, everybody's knowledge is coming up and it's fantastic. But the Knights Templar Church, otherwise known as the Crown Temple, controls the legal system in America and in other countries such as Canada. And all of the bar associations are directly linked to the International Bar Association. And guess where that is located? In the City of London. So they're all tied up together. This conversation in this workshop has been about entrapment and enslavement. And yes, we have put a focus on the debt-based system, but also we do need to bear in mind the legal system. Because as Trina said, we are living under natural law, whether you want to use the word universal law, God's law, whatever you want to describe it as. So what I would like to end in my contribution today is this has been a false crown that they have put upon themselves and upon the world. I am rebuking this crown. As what Katrina says, you exit the system by stop feeding the beast. It is a beast that they have created, which has been designed to entrap and enslave you, enslave your mind, and basically get you to do all the work. Oh, forgot to tell you, they don't pay taxes. So these three parasite empire cities, as they creating their own laws, they don't pay taxes. So you're the ones who are out there doing the work. You're being taxed all over the place. You're being fined all over the place. Okay, but you're feeding the beast. So rebuke this false crown. The false crown does not have any power over our lives. Okay, as you start to exit the system, you may still find, well, you know, I can't just drop everything. That's fine. We're not suggesting that you do, but do what you can, and you will find that actually the more you start to do, the more you find it's easy to then start removing other elements that maybe at one time you thought, I couldn't possibly do this. This program that we have got for you, the Discovering You workshop series, is all about the empowerment, but also the hand holding. We will be having implementation sessions. So it means that anything that you've heard this evening, we can actually go back, we can do a deep dive, we can actually look at the conversation on a more one-to-one level and look at how it impacts you as that divine living soul. So it's all about you creating your own world, living in peace and harmony with your divine creator and also your divine brothers and sisters around you. That's my contribution, and I'm going to hand it back to Denise.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. That was really interesting. I didn't know any of that actually. So questions, has anyone got any questions? I have got some questions. So because it is overwhelming, and sometimes the terminology kind of gets lost as well. Like, what does that really mean? Especially when lots of different words are getting thrown at you. But fundamentally, what I took from that is we are signed up to something to then be sold as energy, and then that, because a lot of the constructs, you know, when you say you're trying to exit the system, was like, well, you know, these roads need to be done, you know, you can't, you've got to play the game sort of thing. But when you find out that actually all of that, like 85% of it is going to and not much has been put in, that in itself is enough to go, I'm out. I think that for me was a big one. So Trina, what, like, in terms of the birth certificate, like, how can we rebuke the birth certificate? Like, how can we go about not being traded as this energetic being? How does that work?
Well, I think with the birth certificate, I think if you know the system and you know what they're doing, you can play it to your advantage, because it's actually quite useful having a commercial entity that's not you, that you can use to your advantage. So, you know, you can continue to use the government as you would McDonald's or Amazon, or obviously, you know, you don't want to use those big corporations anymore, but use it for commerce. You know, it's handy to have, but don't be sort of bogged down by it. You know, if you get a demand come through and you've decided, actually, no, I'm not going to pay taxes anymore. That legal fiction stuff it's not me. I'm going to fight it that way. Then you have the power to do that. So it's more about knowing it. I know that there's some people that haven't registered their offspring, but I also know that, like, for example, the Amish, they don't register their offspring. And then there was one young lady who wanted to get into the system, and it was difficult for her to then sort of get registered and stuff like that. So I think it's probably not a bad idea to register. And then when they're older, you can talk to them about whether they want to come out or, you know, make the choice or whatever. Because even with Carl Lentz, he had one of his offspring taken away from him for 6 years because he didn't want to register. You know, so it's almost like, you know, pick your battles, but also use the tools that are given to you. And I do think the best way out of the slavery is to stop using their money, and just leave them to it. You know, if they want to make up this legal fiction that's got my name, then fine. It's nothing to do with me. You know, it's kind of like a change in the way you view it than resisting it, if that makes sense.
But then how do we really affect the big change then? How do we stop feeding it? Because it's only going to exist. If we're going to try and create something new, like completely new, how can we really change it?
So I think that I think the best way is to kind of set up our own systems, you know, do our own thing. Go back a couple hundred years, you know, what were the villagers all doing before the crown came along, you know, and they were doing fine. You know, they were trading with each other and stuff like that. And it's almost like we have to do that and just stop letting them have any involvement in it. You know, what I say to businesses is try and stay off the radar. If you want to have the fight, I mean, when people first wake up to this, they get angry and they want to fight HMRC. And I kind of advise them to, like, no, just leave it. Try and stay off the radar. Say that you're not earning enough, that you don't have to pay any tax, and just do it that way. And trade in the private as much as you can, without using.
What if you're PAYE, right? So they automatically take like
they do
a lot of money. So how can you get out of that?
Well, we've had one soul who actually spoke to their employers and said, I want to deal with the tax directly, so can you stop taking it at source? And the employer said, yeah, that's fine. If you want to go self-employed, we'll still have on the same contract and stuff like that, but at least then it means you've got to sort your own tax out. So they came to an arrangement with their employer and did it that way. So, you know, or find.
So funny you say that, because my husband's company is based in Switzerland, and they have higher wages in general, and so they would normally give people in the UK less money, but he counter-argued that, and so he was able to get good money, but paying obviously lots of tax. And I just said, why can't you just ask to be self-employed? Like, I did ask that, and it was one of these things that people feel uncomfortable asking something that they wouldn't normally ask.
Yeah,
so I'm going to say that to him.
I have a question. It's Alex here. So I've been out of the system for 10 years. Okay, I haven't been paying taxes. They have TV for a very long time. I was out of the system. So after coming back to the normal life, which is coming back to UK, and I've seen it's crazy. People are paid so little, and I was very angry. So now I've decided to basically get a job, plant-based job. But so I'm coming back to the system because I don't see how I can live without a job. I need to have a place to live. To have a place to live, I need to have a job. And being out of the system for 10 years, everything you're saying is great, it's possible. Okay, I haven't been paying taxes, there are ways, and it's all legal. And I was working for very powerful and rich people. So I was in the bubble with them. But now going out of their bubble, how I can survive in this world, how to trade, where are those places where I can trade, where I can put my money so they save. I cannot buy anything to have my own because you say, oh, you have your own house. How? So I just
is that for me, Alex?
Yeah.
So if you can get paid cash, while it's still around, that's I think that's the buffer at the moment, whilst other systems are being set up. If you want to buy a house, then it's got to be mortgage. So you're going to have to get your credit record up and stuff like that, unless you can find one of your old rich buddies to loan you enough money.
No, but you see, that's the thing. Like, I would like to be like buy a place for myself without mortgage, right? Be out of the system, cut off everything. It's amazing. That's what I would love to do. But how to get it? Where are the new system that we can be part of, so we don't have to be part of this, broken thing?
Yeah. There's a couple of systems that are currently in place. There's the Universal Law Community Trust. There's also the Universal Community Trust. There's systems that are setting up, but they're not established yet. everyone's just still getting organized, you know. I think where everyone's been guided that this is the way we need to go, and we're just kind of getting there now. You've got community assemblies being established everywhere. You've got freedom hubs being established everywhere. So then you can surround yourself with local like-minded people. And when you get those societies coming together, that's when solutions will start coming through. Because the way that they used to do it back in the medieval times, if somebody needed to build a house and they needed money for materials and stuff, the village would contribute and then they would pay it back that way. You know, we used to manage it then, but you know, we're just kind of getting established with it now. There's none ready that I know of, but the need's there, so it will come.
That's the thing, you see, I don't see anyone around me like-minded. Like you say, you find those places, everyone around, but I feel like you know, this, like when I was talking with people about my point of view, I said, this is crazy. People work for this, like it's a slavery. When I was thinking of my husband, I said, look, we are just adding to fuel for someone's private jet, buying in this little whatever. And he was so angry with me, don't say things like that. I said, this is the truth. I've been outside of this antness that we are in, but where are those people? Like nobody, like this is the first time here today I hear all of that. I'm like, fuck, there are people that actually know.
There are. If you go on Freedom, I think it's Freedom Network or Freedom Hub. If you go on there, then they'll join you up with your local people. They'll tell them where you are, and then they'll put you in contact with everybody else that's awake around you. And there's also, as I said, the community assemblies as well.
So
that can join you up. No, they actually meet in real life as well.
Because I think like you can be targeted if, you know, if there's too loud about certain communities. Of course, it's not helping the whole system, right? You're working against it. So, okay, that's why we need this the common law knowledge and all of that, right?
Alex, obviously, you know, we have set up this community ourselves, and what we do is signposting. So if you're not on our mailing list, one of the first things that we offer is a resource guide. So the resource guide actually gives you links to different groups and organizations that we have, well, we feel are credible enough to actually share information about, because you know, some of them, I'm not going to say too much on this call, but some of them, unfortunately, they have been offering different solutions, but not really delivering. So we've got a very selective guide. All you need to do, I think, is it Denise that's connected you with us this evening? Yeah, so we'll get your email address. We'll put you onto the that mailing list, and you'll actually have a download document for resource guide. And, you know, it's all about knowing where to start.
Exactly.
So you're in the right place, my darling.
Great. Thank you very much.
And I think that, I mean, this is the whole point of this, I guess, is to create the steps in which where we can create something different, something new, something that we can work with together with everyone to create this change, because now is really the time for it to crumble and start again, right?
I really love the idea of trading out of the system, which is amazing. Like, for example, I think if there are people that are already trying to build up the system,
I'll message you afterwards and get you sorted.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Has anyone else got any other questions? I guess that's the main one, isn't it? It's just trying to get out of what already exists, and it feels like you kind of half in, half out, use the system, don't use the system, do what you can with what you've got. But the intention, and like I was saying at the beginning, if you've got an intention to help others, to create abundance for others, it's not just because the system is just creating abundance for themselves, right? So being able to create abundance for everyone, and for me, that's important to teach that. So it's, you know, everyone has to prosper, raising everyone up, not just individuals or this is mine or this is yours. So it's working together as a collective to raise consciousness, raise wealth, prosperity, so everyone knows, and it's not it's not inclusive. It's for everyone. So I'm just going to pass on to Susie if we've not got any more questions. And
can I say something?
I thought you wanted to ask a question. I could see you.
Sorry, I couldn't see you on the screen. Sorry, go for it.
No, it's all right. Yeah, well, I'm hearing what's happening here and everything, and I've always thought about the only way us as a people can actually get it together is actually break away, as you say. Many of us are looking solutions, but I think the solution really is actually cooperatively getting land and starting again. This is the only way that, because relying on the system and keep on running back to the system for them to change their mind or do something different or whatever it may be. But if we've all got an idea to make a new creation, I think, boy, it's the easiest way is like what God gave us. He says, boy, give us this land. So it's the land that's where our treasure is. So to me, I think if we had a collective resource to get collective land that people with like-minded minds can go there and create again, because I know that there's many creators amongst us. It's like we're the ones who create this system, so we can create anywhere. It's a baby system we're talking about, something what's going to be born again, but it's still, it's like, as long as we're relying on a system in which has no care for you, then you ain't going to prosper that way.
Exactly.
So I'm thinking it's like, well, me personally, I think that we need to get away and start again. I don't know what anybody else thinks.
I agree, actually. So I think the lady was asking about mortgages. So for me, that's just feeding the beast again. If you want to apply for a loan, it's you're just perpetuating what we are trying to get out of. And I'm involved with lots of different groups and people who are going, what we want to do is go back to nature, go back to, like this gentleman was just saying, back to the land. So, growing our own food organically, coming together. So it's not just you as an individual doing this, but I'm involved in one group, for example, where we go to each other's gardens or plots of land, and we work together in groups. And it might be that I might go to other people's gardens and they might not come to mine, but other people will come to mine to help me. And then there's other people who are literally that I know of who are giving their land. There's a few people that I know of, and they're very wealthy, and they are giving their land, acres and acres of it. So one of them is using their land to grow hemp. And as we know, hemp is going to be one of the industries, or it was one of the industries that was destroyed to make way for the plastic industry, the paper industry, and the loads of other industries that hemp can actually, the cotton industry as well, that hemp can actually replace and be much, and you can harvest hemp about 2 or 3 times a year. It's completely natural. It doesn't take any pesticides, etc., like a lot of the other industries do. Doesn't pollute, and so yeah, they've offered that they are going to be growing hemp. And then there's other people, and these are again wealthy people. They happen to have land, and they can see that there is a need now, especially to grow food. We need to get away from the GMO, the monopolies, the supermarkets, and so they are offering their land for people to come and literally, people are growing their own food. In years gone by, in centuries gone by, all of these lands that we've got that are called commons. So, for example, Shepherd's Bush Common, Clapham Common, all of these commons, they were given by the state to the common people to grow food. And now they're just grass, and they're just used for, you know, nothing, or sunbathing. But in the past, they were divided into 4 sections, and 3 sections were farmed, while 1 section was left fallow, and it was used for the people who couldn't afford land, for the common people, for them to grow food. And in a way, that's what's happening again. But instead of this land being offered by the state, it's being offered by people who happen to have land, who happen to be wealthy. So for me, that's where I see us going. There's going to be 2 parallel systems, and one of them will be the system that perpetuates the debt slavery system that we have at the moment, i.e. mortgages. Mortgage is a debt, and the others will be people living in communities with like-minded and like-hearted people, growing our own food, sharing our resources, our skills, and working together in, you know, as close to nature as possible, and using technology instead of in a way that's detrimental to us, but in the way that it can free us more, so that we can do things that we're really, you know, that we love and we're passionate about. Whereas at the moment, technology is being used to replace human beings completely with, you know, AI and augmenting human beings, instead of being used to assist us in enabling us to lead a more fulfilled lives. So there's lots happening, that, you know, lots of off-grid communities. It's just, I mean, it's an abundance of solutions happening out there, just overflowing, actually.
So what I want to say, thank you for that, Tara. What I want to say is, you know, on it will be session number 4, we are going to put together a panel where they'll be looking at different areas. And I think this particular topic, looking at the off-grid community, is something that we can definitely put on the program and have maybe 1 or 2 speakers that are really making headways in this area to come and share not also what's happening, but what opportunities there are. Because I think when people talk about, oh, there's this land and that land, I personally feel, well, are we sure that this is happening across the country, or is it just certain parts of the country? So we definitely need to make sure that for those of us who are located across the British Isles, that we have, if we're at that point where we're saying, you know, we're ready to go into a smaller community, that we know how we can actually do that. So yeah, I think it's something that I would definitely put onto workshop number 4.
Thank you, Vanessa. And so we're going to end tonight's session with Susie Wellstead, emotional fitness coach, author of You Are Enough, and also a contributor to the School of Change. Susie, are you here? Here she is.
Hello. Good evening, everybody. Gosh, huge appreciation to every single person who's contributed and who's going to be listening in, because things happen for a reason, don't they? And we're all here for one reason. Before I start, I just want to give thanks, because there's so much, there's so much juice in this webinar that I'll definitely be listening in again, because there's some real fascinating stuff here. I can appreciate people being on, and people going to be listening. If they've never heard anything like this before, you might feel hopeless, scared, even overwhelmed. Especially when you hear stuff about entrapment and slavery. So I just want to put people at ease tonight with a short meditation. And meditation is not about falling asleep. Let's remind you there of not falling asleep. That's not meditation, but let's focus on moving forward. And what comes to my mind, because I'm very much in the moment myself, was this, you know, false power versus real power. And I don't want to really take up too much time. Also, I want to say, start celebrating everybody that's on this call, everybody that'll be watching and listening again. Celebrate your existence by just being aware and being present, because that's what we all are. We are all being aware, being made to collaborate and come together. Okay, so as an emotional fitness coach, I like to guide my clients and anybody who wishes to listen in to let go of emotions, because we are not our emotions or our thoughts, yet we get carried away with the stories and the memories of what's going on. And there's so much noise and distraction, yet your heart knows the truth, my friends. And anything that you've seen or heard today, your heart will know the truth, and your heart will be urging you and pushing you. Now, I'll tell you to go there, go to that place. And even if you want something else, because I just can't help it, I just think now's the time to start even asking yourself questions, you know, like, what are you thinking and what are you feeling right now? And what is the quality of what you're thinking and of your thoughts? And just write it out, even for your own benefit. It will really help you. Okay, so let's get into a comfortable position, which means just by whether you're sitting down, whether you're lying down, whatever feels comfortable for you in this moment. And I want you to think about, before we go into it, anything that may have disturbed you, may have felt, oh my gosh, what are they talking about? Or I feel really scared about hearing anything. And I want you to keep that in mind while I talk you through the process. So again, if you feel safe, close your eyes. If not, just have a nice soft gaze right in front of you and take a nice deep breath in for me. Right through the nose, right down to your belly, and release it nice and slowly. Keeping your feet grounded on the floor, or you may be lying down, just bring yourself to the now and just allow yourself to relax. Drop those shoulders and take another deep breath in, right down to your stomach, and release. And I want you to just, in your mind's eye, scan your body for any tension, any pain that you may be feeling right here, right now, during this call. Is there anything that's come to mind that's made you feel scared or even overwhelmed? You know, and as you scan your body, go to the area that you can feel this overwhelm, feel this scared. Whatever's coming up for you right here, right now, whatever the emotion is, allow yourself to go there. And take a nice deep breath in and release. And while you're there, I just want you to think about what it is in the now, what it is, you know, what is it that's come up for you? Allow yourself to just feel that sensation. Don't go to the stories and the memories, just feel that sensation and allow yourself to feel it for what it is. It just wants your attention. And if you're struggling with some kind of, there is no sensation, there is no feeling, just stick to your chest area, your stomach area. That's where all your emotions and feelings sit, and allow yourself just to be present. Allow whatever's coming up for you just to let it go. and just be with it. And at any time, if you feel quite anxious and it feels kind of really anxious where you're feeling that it's getting intense, just keep breathing all the way through it. Breathing in through the nose and out through the mouth, releasing everything. Any stress that you may be feeling. We sometimes get so lost in the memories and the thoughts when all we need to do is allow ourselves just to be present and feel that sensation. It just wants your attention. Allow yourself to breathe and just be in the here, in the now. And as you go through this process, allowing yourself to really feel that sensation, allow yourself to just observe everything that's coming up. Just observe it. And let that sensation just do its own thing. And once again, if it feels as if it's getting stronger, if it feels intense, just breathe your way through it. And as you keep breathing through it, as somebody mentioned tonight, our natural state is peace, it is love. And once you allow everything to just fall away from you, you'll become aware of that peace that's within you. You're just becoming more aware of it. We've lost it with all this noise, all this distraction. It's always there at any given moment. Allow yourself just to be with yourself. And allow yourself to feel that sensation. Whether it is that peace within you that you find, whether it's still the noise. Allow it just to be. When you feel ready, place your hands on your heart center, anywhere around your chest. And know that your natural state is peace. You may not believe it at this moment in time with all this chaos around us, but your heart knows the truth. And when you're ready, open your eyes wiggle your toes and let your fingers free. Okay.
Thank you so much, Susie. And thank you for everyone that's contributed today. We're really, really grateful for your energy and your presence and your contribution. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Thank you all. It was really good. Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Yeah, thank you all. Yeah,
Thank you
very
to the wonderful speakers. Thank you. Absolutely amazing. And yeah, we will be getting back to you in terms of the recording and how you can promote it within your communities, because we've got to get this message out. What we've created in this forum is very special to us as the Mindset Collective, but also, you know, having you on board with us. You know, we're making history, and I loved what Katrina said about remember our DNA and where we've come from. So we're all here together for a reason, and I'm truly, truly grateful, honoured and grateful to be connected with you, even though it's only digitally. But we will meet. We will meet. So
Sure.
thank you.
It's the first time I've done a meditation on Zoom, and I'm super chilled now. Thank you.
Thank you very
Brilliant.
much for having me. I'm blown away by everything I've heard today, guys. Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you.